Jeff Shepard. Desperate House Dems trot out John Dean to criticize another Republican White House. Editors note the opinions in this article are the authors, as published by our content partner, and do not necessarily represent the views of MSN or Microsoft. John Dean was the lead-off witness before the House Judiciary Committee's Monday hearings on the UA hearing called on 7 days' notice, with witness statements only being distributed to minority members an hour before the hearing began. Dean's intended role was clear from the outset. He was not appearing as a fact witness. No, Dean's appearance was part of a bait-and-switch gambit by Democrats controlling the committee. Each of the three other, but what could we expect? Dean's appearance is analogous to getting a notorious, convicted safecracker from 4 decades prior to say that he believes a new model would be relatively easy to crack. He has no personal knowledge, of course, because he's been out the safe-cracking business for almost 50 years. But it does make for his part, Dean has no first-hand knowledge or inside scoop about the Mueller investigation. He's just a Unlike the other panel members, John Dean is not in any sense a currently qualified expert on obstruction. He's not even Let's reiterate that John Dean hasn't practiced any law, he hasn't represented any clients, he hasn't taught any law courses, he hasn't appeared in any court to argue a case. The last time he was before a judge, he was being sentenced to a 1 to 4 year prison term. Race, what John Dean is a figure foisted on the American public from decades past who's emerged as a media hero because of his seemingly endless ability to denounce alleged Republican missteps as being worse than Watergate. Granted, Dean knows full well about the crimes of Watergate, precisely because he was an active party to their commission. Dean was assigned and, of course, Dean ran the Watergate cover-up after Liddy's team was caught red-handed in the Watergate office building. But he wasn't acting. Unlike Dean, it's never been shown that President Nixon or his 2 closest White House aides H.R. Bob Haldeman and Dean, in contrast, was heavily involved, not only in knowing about Liddy's intel plan, but also in running the subsequent cover-up. He sat in on all of the FBI's interviews of White House staff. He talked its acting director, Patrick Gray, into improperly providing him with copies of investigative reports, and he destroyed evidence found in Howard Hunt's White House safe. He rehearsed Jeb Magruder for his perjured testimony before 2 grand juries, and he improperly helped himself to $4,000 in campaign funds for his honeymoon, no less. So, while Dean certainly could have testified as to how he obstructed justice, he could not testify as to how President Trump might have done so because Dean has neither the experience nor the expertise to do so with any authority. What is so telling about Monday's hearing is that while Dean deliberately failed to identify them, none of the obstructive acts which he so clearly committed decades ago have any parallel to obstruction allegations against President Trump or anyone on his staff in this investigation. There have been no allegations of withholding or destruction of government documents. None about encouragement. In this sense, any Dean testimony about the specifics of his own past criminal acts that actually occurred would have seriously undercut the validity of obstruction charges against President Trump. Sure, both presidents ranted and raved to their staffs about the injustice of special prosecutor investigations, but only in Watergate were there clear acts of obstruction. One more critical difference in Watergate: there was an underlying crime, the break-in at the headquarters of the Democratic National Committee, that was being covered up. So you had motive. So all the Democrats and their media friends are left with is tired old John Dean, the one who personally brought us the Watergate horror show many, many years ago, trotted out once again to criticize a Republican administration.
Raindrop, drop top smoking, no cooking the hot pot. Fucking on your bitch, yeah, that. Looking up, open the park pot.